Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm your host, Corey Graham. Join us here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where the independent new authors come first. This book is a compelling memoir of redemption, insight, and breaking free from addiction. It's written by Joseph B. Harris, and it's titled Escape from Critical Confusion. That's what we're going to be talking about. Joseph is here with me now. Joseph, welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. I really appreciate you talking with me tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for welcoming me.
Joseph, can you tell me all about Escape from Critical Confusion and what you've written about here?
Well, Escape from Critical Confusion is an autobiography starting off from around age 5, where, I was living in poverty in New York City, father an alcoholic, severe poverty, hunger, no toys. For a kid that age, I had 3 older brothers. Both my parents, my mother never drank anything of that nature, but my father was an alcoholic. He was a retired New York City police officer who had worked for quite a while and started drinking and lost his job, I believe. No one ever said that he lost it, but I believe he lost it. And I was very young when he did, because around age 5, he wasn't working. So my father was born in 1910, so he probably became a police officer around 1931, 32. I was born in 44. We had lots of fun, me and my 3 older brothers, playing in a house, making makeshift toys. We were living in the back of a storefront in Brooklyn, dirt poor. And then we moved to Ralph Avenue, which was even worse. It was called a condemned building, cold water, flat, no hot water. That's when I first started school at age 6. We moved from there to Red Hook Housing Project, which was like a dream. The housing project with hot water and heat and, father still drinking. At that age, I was about 6.5, 7 years old. That's when I first started stealing. And I didn't steal to just have a lot of money. I stole for food. So I would be in the candy store. One of my older brothers taught me how to put my hands behind my back and open the candy door when school children were packed in the candy store, grab a handful of candy. That's how it started with the stealing. Going from candy to ice cream pops, from ice cream pops to belts as I got older and older, to harmonicas. And then around age 12, that's when I first got arrested for snatching a pocketbook, And it's interesting because, when a juvenile delinquent is committing crimes, he don't believe he can get caught. He believes he's smarter than anybody else. And I'll never forget when I was riding back from the court after going to court for snatching a pocketbook, and my mother and father were berating me, "Oh, you're bad, you're never going to do anything, you're going to be dead before you're 21. I was on the subway, AA train in Manhattan, going back to 103rd Street, and I was thinking to myself, man, if the police officer wasn't on the corner, I'd have never got caught. If Johnny never ratted me, I never got caught. I never looked at my part. And that's what a lot of young people do. So I talk about all of the thinking related to young minds and how they're influenced by different things. Then at 16, I got introduced to heroin. I've never been high before in my life, but at 16, my oldest brother, 4 years older than me, turned me on to heroin. So I started using heroin at 16 years old. At first, things were good. One of my brothers met Duke Ellington's nephew, and we started hanging out at his house. They were rich. We used to have a ball with Denn. I got that in the book, too, everything about that situation. But I was living 2 lives. I'd go to Ruth Ellington's house with her 2 sons, Michael and Stephen, and, go with the chauffeurs and the nightclubs and stuff at 13 years old, 14 years old. But when the heroin came in at 16, because with heroin has what's called an accumulative effect, where you don't realize that you're addicted until it has a stronghold inside of you. So I didn't think I was addicted. I was warned about it, but I said, that'll never happen to me. As I continued to use, I lost the job that I had. It was a very good job for me, for a junior high school 8th grade dropout. I was a shipping clerk working in the Committee for Economic Development on 5th Avenue in Manhattan. And I had that job for a few years, but the heroin took that away from me. I had a girlfriend. She was dancing at the World's Fair when I was 19. I was playing drums, because I learned how to play drums with Duke's nephew. And, I lost everything at 20. I was a total addicted bum at 20 years old. Like I pulled robberies, burglaries, police shooting at me, bullets flying by my head, all kinds of things that I would never do. So I stopped at 28. And I believe the reason why I stopped is because I reconnected with God.
Well, what an incredible story. What an important book this is. Again, it's titled Escape from Critical Confusion. It's written by Joseph B. Harris and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So you can pick it up at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble and iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Joseph, thank you again for coming on the show and telling me about your story. It was really great chatting with you tonight.
Thank you also, and God bless.
I'm holding in my hand the new book written by Sharon L. Stewart. It's titled Lucy Liu and Kirk's Circus ABCs, a counting alphabet book. Right now, Sarah is here with me at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We're going to be talking all about the book. Sarah, welcome to the show. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Well, Sarah, can you tell me all about Lucy Liu and Kirk's Circus ABCs and what readers are going to find here?
Sure, absolutely. So it is just a fun, whimsical circus. So some things you may see at an actual circus, some things you would not. But it actually counts through the alphabet. And so each letter and number has something that goes with that particular letter that they get to kind of search, but they're really not hard to find on each page.
Sarah, what inspired you to do this? Where did the idea for this come from?
So I am a teacher of elementary students, but I've had these words and numbers and all of those ideas written down for 10 years before I did anything with them. And so it was just one of those as I was teaching and just thought this would be a great teaching tool along the way for students that, are starting to learn to read or even can read, but give them some little incentives to count along the way.
What does your writing background look like, Sarah? Are you experienced in this?
Well, only as a elementary education teacher, like just writing their little short stories and things like that. This is my first time publishing a book.
Congratulations. Was this a long journey then for you overall, the writing and publishing and everything?
It was. So like I said, I wrote down the words about 10 years ago before I did anything with them, before I even started looking for an illustrator or pursuing anything with it. And once I found the illustrator, it took about a year and a half for her to get through all of the illustrations and things. She's local to where I'm at, so it was a great little partnership. And she worked full time and had a little one, so it did take a little longer than anticipated. But all in all, I was thrilled with the outcome of it. And then once I went into publishing, I sent it to the first company, Covenant Books. And within 3 days of submitting it for review, they accepted it for publication.
I could only imagine what you were thinking whenever that first copy came in and it was finally a real thing. You were holding it in your hands. Sarah, what was that like?
It was just surreal. It was just a dream come true because, like I said, I never even thought years ago when I wrote the words that this would ever come to pass. So it was just an amazing feeling once I got that actual book and could look at it.
And now, officially, you're a published author. When you think about that, Sarah, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Well, when I think about it, it's so cool for my students to look at it and go, hey, you're a published author. And it's so fun because as my students and past students and former students and things like that, they've seen the book and they're like, hey, we're writing a book and we're publishing it too. So that's really exciting just to see the inspiration.
So do you think you would do it again? Do you think you got some more books in you?
Oh, absolutely. I do have some ideas for more words. So as those come along, there's thoughts in my head and some on paper. But absolutely, I'd like to do some more.
So you're a teacher, you're an author. I have the feeling that you might have a thing for reading as well. Are you a big reader?
I am, yes, sir.
What kind of stuff do you like to get into?
I like Christian fiction. More recently, some of the Hunger Games and Divergent type things, the dystopian type things for young adults. And I've even seen different Christian authors that write that kind of stuff too. So that's pretty cool.
Well, we have a lot of people listening to us right now who are authors just starting out. So, Sarah, do you have maybe some advice that you could offer them?
Well, I would definitely if you have any ideas, write them down and then just continue pursuing them and asking around, because once I started pursuing this and looking around, I found a lot of people interested and a lot of people that could help and just do all kinds of things for me.
Oh, what a wonderful resource. Again, the book is titled Lucy Liu and Kirk's Circus ABCs, a counting alphabet book. It's written by Sharon L. Stewart, published by Covenant Books, and available really everywhere, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Sarah, thank you so much again for coming on the show and talking with me all about this. It was really great.
Oh, absolutely. Again, thank you for having me. This was exciting.
Well, I'm really happy right now to be joined by author Robbie Kesselring. Robbie, welcome back to the show. It's great to be talking with you again.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I have to congratulate you, Robbie, because the audiobook edition of Evil Seed Book 3 just came out. And last time you're here, we talked about the print edition, and we have some new listeners now. So, Robbie, can you remind us all about Evil Seed Book 3 and a little bit about the series in general?
Yes, sir. The first book that kind of starts you off is called Purgatory, and it's a city in space, and it's between the sun and the moon. And the second book is called The Garden of Neom, meaning New City or Garden City. And it's an addition to the city in space. It's a garden dome. It's a little bit gritty and graphic, very science fiction-ish. And this third book continues on. It's a story of a family that really has 3 young children in it. And they go to and fro from Earth to the city in space and also explore a few planets in the universe.
Robbie, would you say it's primarily sci-fi fans that would be into this the most?
I think it's the second book, The Garden of Neom, is a little more science fiction, but they're all in that realm. The third book, I think, has a little something for everyone. It's a morality story, has a bit of truth in it, and it's, I think, somewhat original. It doesn't necessarily fall along the lines of, I'm a movie fan, I love movies. That kind of doesn't really fall along with the revenge thing and the payback thing so much. But it's still very exciting, and there's still, conflict and such in it. You follow through the many years of life of the kids and the family, and of course other characters as well.
So do you feel that the story is wrapped up now, or do you see this going into more after this?
Yes, sir. I think the story continues. I have thoughts in my head right now of where I want it to go. They're all really just a very near future, believable scenario, and I think they have a little bit of tech in them. And that tech, moves along so quickly. But this fourth book will be, I think, underway soon here, and I think it's going to be also a good one.
And of course, we're talking about the audiobook edition of Evil Seed Book 3. Robbie, was it a smooth process for you to find just that right voice?
That's a good question. The audiobook network sends samples of readers. I get to choose male or female. And you listen to them a little bit, and from that group, you choose one, and then they send you a little larger sample. Or I send them a little larger sample of the book to read and flex his muscles, so to speak, on voices he can do and such. And so at that point, pretty easy choice. Very exciting to hear that first 10 or 15 minutes. That was really cool. But that's how it goes, and I'm pleased with the outcome.
You said it was really cool to listen to this, and it's interesting, the whole time you're writing this, so you're used to reading the words off the page, and now you're hearing your own book being read back to you. Robbie, what was that like?
That's very exciting. Yeah, to have someone read it to you, that's exciting. But this guy, his name is Ray Jeremiah, and he, has personality. Yeah, I think he has the appropriate cadence for the way I write, and it just comes alive. It's super fun, and it's almost as good as watching a movie.
Robbie, would you have any advice for the aspiring authors out there, especially the ones who are looking to go down that audiobook route?
Just commit to it. Yeah, you can't go wrong. You'll have fun with it. And, there's a cost involved with it. So you have to, consider that. But other than that, it's a winner.
So all in all, when you think about the writing, the publishing, the audiobook, everything, what's the most challenging part of it all for you?
Time. You think, well, I got this book done and I'm so excited. And then it's like, oh my goodness. It takes a lot of time to get from turning it in, having it approved, and then all the systems of editing and page design and so on and so forth. It takes time. And, the stress of actually completing a book and then seeing if it's going to be publishable, that's a big one. But it's the time that really kind of gets you.
Absolutely. I think readers are definitely going to love this, and audiobook listeners as well. Again, it's titled Evil Seed, Book 3. It's written by Robbie Kesselring, published by the Audiobook Network, and really go everywhere where you usually go to get your audiobooks, and you'll find it, like Audible, iTunes, and Amazon. Robbie, it's been really great talking with you again. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks, Corey.
Author Carol Oschmann has written a new book that's a tale exploring the power of dreams and angelic guidance. It's titled Angel's Little Wings, and this is part of the We All Dream series. It's book 1. Carol is sitting here with me right now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, and we'll be talking all about it. Carol, welcome to the show. I appreciate you joining me tonight.
Well, thank you for having me. It's great to be here.
I'm curious to learn all about Angel's Little Wings, so can you tell me all about it?
Well, the story's about an angel who worries she'll never get bigger wings, and a little boy on Earth who wants to look good for the baseball team, for his school's baseball team. And they work together through his dreams to make both things happen.
What kind of a reading audience did you have in mind when you were working on this?
Well, between the ages of 4 and 8, who have dreams at night, and their parents who want to know how to explain those dreams.
So I'm curious how this all came about, Carol. Can you tell me how the idea came to you?
Well, I've done dream work. I call it dream work, studying and teaching for over 40 years to adults, even in a woman's prison for a time. I was a volunteer. And I always wished that there was some way I could influence families to sit at the breakfast table and talk about their dreams. It's something we just dismiss. And to me, they've proven very important.
So prior to this, Carol, have you written or been published?
Yeah, I have, 7 adult books on dreams that I'm pursuing the sale of. I've got, I advertise them and work on them.
Once you got started on Angel's Little Wings, up through the publishing process, everything, was this a long journey for you, or did everything happen pretty quickly?
It happened pretty quickly. It just hit me one day. I wondered, I can't reach these families, but then it came to me I could. I could do it in a children's book. And it would, make dreams important to children and teach the parents at the same time things about the dreams, how to explain them, how to find meaning in them.
The illustrations are really important in a book like this. Carol, was that a smooth process for you?
No, I really tortured myself over that because I'm not an artist at all. But I was luckily led to an illustrator who's just done a fabulous job.
Then I could only imagine what you're feeling, what you're thinking whenever that first copy arrives and you're holding it for the first time, Carol. What's that like?
Oh, that was wonderful. I live in an apartment house that's very social, and I just had to show it to everybody. I'm sure they're tired of me walking around showing my children's books to them, but I've sold quite a few that way, personally.
So you're published, you have your work out there, Carol. So when you think about that, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Well, I feel it's been a mission for God. This whole studying and teaching dreams has been a mission for God, and my reward is to continue with it.
So this is book 1 of the We All Dream series. Do you have a certain number planned out, or are you just going to kind of go with it?
I've got 7 already written. I'm just, waiting. I have one other out, Mom, What's a Dream? Oh, I have another one that's called Worms in My Dreams. I have about 4 more planned.
Well, we have a lot of authors listening to us right now who are just starting out. So, Carol, do you have maybe some advice that you could throw out there for them?
Only that if they have something really strong in their mind that they want to write about, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Fiction is important. It's relaxation. It's just a fun time to read a good fiction book. So no matter what it is, if it's in your mind, go ahead and start writing it. You'll never know when you'll be the next great writer.
Well, sounds like this book in this series is really going to bless a lot of readers. Again, this is called Angel's Little Wings. It's book 1 of the We All Dream series. It's written by Carol Oschmann and published by Christian Faith Publishing, And really, it's available everywhere. Places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Carol, it's been wonderful talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Sitting down with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, I'm really happy to welcome author Christopher Davis. Christopher, welcome. Thanks for being here tonight.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure.
I wanted to congratulate you, Christopher. You have a new book out. It's titled The God of Your Dreams, a tiny devotional for those who encounter Christ through dreams. Christopher, can you tell me all about this?
Yes, the name kind of says it all. It's a tiny devotional, about 10 entries of various experiences that I've had over the years. Early on, I didn't even realize that this was kind of God communicating with me throughout life, whether it was a season of my life or a moment in my life. But I was smart enough to write these experiences down. And what I did was I just compiled 10 entries that I thought would speak to someone besides myself, especially someone who believes that they don't necessarily hear from God. They don't really know that God may be speaking to them, whether it's through a dream, through a vision, through just a time of meditation. And what I found was just by going through my journals over the years, I found out that all the time God has been speaking to me. And I could even point to times where, wow, he directed me to a certain area, a certain opportunity through a dream or through a time of meditation that I didn't even realize was him talking to me. So I really wrote it down for someone who may be in a season of their life where they're trying to understand whether or not God is speaking to them for direction, for comfort, for wisdom. And I'm hoping that it does for them what it did for me, and just really to know that there is a creator that communicates with us and cares about us and wants to guide us.
Christopher, what does your writing background look like? Do you have experience in this kind of thing?
Never. I have never written a book, but I had attempted to write a book once years ago. It was awful. It was hard, and even when I wrote, I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever read. So I kind of set that aside. But this book came about at the right moment, at the right time. And again, I hope it's a blessing to people.
So you got your manuscript all ready and you hooked up with your publisher, with Christian Faith. Christopher, what was the most challenging part of that publishing end of things for you?
You know what? Those guys were really great. I think the hardest part was the courage. You know, you have the manuscript written and you feel like, okay, I've done what I'm supposed to do with regard to writing it. Then there's that, I guess, scary part of, does anyone want to publish this? Who would care about reading this? I think that's the scariest part of is just really taking the leap to get it published and put it out there and see what it does out there in the world.
And then one day it's finally real. Your first copy comes in and you're holding this for the first time, Christopher. What was that like?
Surreal. It was truly surreal to be holding it in my hands, and it was beautiful. It was so beautifully done. It was absolutely surreal. You know, I cried. I did cry because it was just a surreal moment to realize, wow, I've written this and it's been published. I tell you, even when the publisher called me, when Christian Faith called me and said, you know, this is something we'd be interested in publishing, I think I was, silent on the phone for a second. Like, did she just say what I think she said? And so it was absolutely surreal, and it's truly, truly an extraordinary moment.
And now that you're officially a published author, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
Getting it done. I think the most rewarding aspect is getting it done. You know, I'm a man of deep faith. I do want to obey my God, and to have been obedient enough to write it and then, have the faith to reach out and have it published. I think that's what means the most, to know that at this moment, this far along in my process with God, I had the obedience and the faith to take that leap, to not just write it, to hear from him, write what he wanted me to write, but then to take that step of not letting it just sit and collect dust. I think that means the most to me.
I think so many readers will find a blessing in the pages of this book. Again, the book is titled The God of Your Dreams, a tiny devotional for those who encounter Christ through dreams. This is written by Christopher Davis and published by Christian Faith Publishing. And really available everywhere, like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Christopher, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thanks again for being here with me.
Thank you for having me.
The book I'm holding right now is a memoir documenting the author's incredible story. It's titled Female Foreign Medical Graduate. It's written by Naga Chigurupati, and she's right here with me now. We're going to talk all about it. Naga, welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's my honor. Thank you.
Can you tell me all about Female Foreign Medical Graduate and what readers will find here?
Even though it's my personal journey in this country as an immigrant, trying to showcase my journey and the gender bias that we still to date face at workplace, I still would like readers to know that with hard work and perseverance, you can always achieve your goals and find some inspiration in my book.
That's a great message, Naga. What sort of a reading audience do you think would be into this the most?
I think mostly women, but I would like in general for the public, both in India, because I'm from background from India, and for the medical graduates that are wanting to come to U.S. from India, I think they'll all have something in this book to take.
So how did this book come about? Where did your inspiration come from?
I always felt like there's a need. Nobody talks so much about doctors or what we go through day to day in life, and that we are human beings too with ups and downs in our lives, and we still try to rise above all that and to be able to take care of our patients. And I just wanted, in general, for the public to know and see what we go through too. And I don't think there are a lot of people or anyone that talks about doctors. I haven't read books or seen anything that talks about doctors in general.
Absolutely. That's really interesting. Naga, what does your writing experience look like? Do you have a background in doing this kind of thing?
No, not at all. And this book came straight from my heart. Honestly, when I was writing, it was just all my emotions and feelings that I penned down on a paper, and the book came out as a product of that. Absolutely no experience in writing.
Well, congratulations for getting your first one out there.
Thank you.
So when you think about the whole process, the writing, the publishing, everything, was this a long journey that you were on?
Yeah, it's been about a year since I wrote and sent out the manuscript to be accepted, and then, with all the editing and the book cover design, and so it's been a long process.
Yeah, once you get your manuscript together, you get it off to your publisher to Newman Springs, and that publishing process, there's a lot there. Naga, what did you find the most challenging about that end?
I think since this is my first book, I didn't know the choices I was making about the book design, cover design, or the font, or, the background music that goes with for the YouTube video and everything, if I was making the right choices or not. But I just went with what I felt suits the genre of the book and the mood of the book.
So now you're officially a published author. When you think about that, what's the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
I think I'll feel more satisfied when the book reaches out to a lot more people, and a lot more people read it and send feedback, and, as I said, hopefully bring some subtle change with the parents and the community back in India about the way they bring up girls or how they get the girls married and all. Hopefully it can bring some change over there. I think that is when I'll feel very satisfied. That was one of the purpose of writing this book.
Definitely an important book. Again, it's titled Female Foreign Medical Graduate. It's written by Naga Chigurupati and published by Newman Springs Publishing, and available at places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Naga, it's been really wonderful talking tonight. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Andrew Denn has just published a new sci-fi thriller. It's titled The Stellari, and that's what we're going to be talking all about. Andrew is joining me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Andrew, welcome. It's great to have you tonight.
Great to be here.
Can you tell me all about The Stellari and what readers are going to be getting into here?
So what they're going to be getting into is if the readers have even a reasonable love for marine science, you're going to love this book. It does delve into marine science to a small degree, not a big degree, but enough. And if you love science fiction, then you're also going to love it. It's basically, just without saying too much, it's basically about marine scientists that make a discovery that's going to change the world as we know it.
I love it. How did this come about? Where did the inspiration come from for this?
So the inspiration kind of came from a few different science fiction things I've seen from a few different movies and TV shows I've watched, and little bits and pieces from here and there kind of intrigued me. And I'm like, okay, without saying too much, there are some things that I was like, okay, I see a theme here that's kind of an interesting thought. Maybe I'm going to try to do it a little different. And when they go to read, especially you get to about second or third chapter, again, without saying too much, you'll definitely see how I went about things in a different way than you might see in other books. And then as you go on, you're also going to see yet again a different theme with certain characters within that genre I'm talking about that will be totally different than you might have seen previously.
Oh, Andrew, what does your writing background look like? Are you experienced in this kind of thing?
Actually, no. I have no degree or education strictly in the field of writing. I've always been one to tell stories. My storytelling, the earliest I can remember is I used to love saying, I had a dream about this, or and realistically maybe it's more daydreams than actual dreams. But I always laid it off as dreams, and I had to do where someone was like, you got some unusual dreams. That's what I used to love doing. And then eventually in high school, I started writing a book, which is the one I'm working on now, actually, because I picked it back up and was like, okay, I'm going to finish this now. And, was submitting that in lieu of a book report. And my high school teacher said, this has the capacity to be a great American novel. That's what he wrote right on the paper. And I basically was like, okay. So I wrote up to a certain extent. I didn't touch anything for a while. And then when the pandemic hit, I was working at Publix at the time, and there would be a lot of times where I'd be doing something like back in that time, we used to sanitize the shopping carts, and I'd be just sitting in the cart bay just doing nothing. So at a certain point, I was like, you know what? I need to do something to occupy my mind. So I started writing again, and I came up with a science fiction story that I have from thought that was in my head, and then a thought turned into a whole story. And that's what eventually led to the creation of The Stellari.
So you got your manuscript already, and you hooked up with Christian Faith Publishing. You started that publishing process. There's a lot involved in that end. Andrew, what did you find the most challenging about that?
Probably the waiting. People think when you see a book, you don't really think about the hard work, the blood, the sweat, and sometimes tears. And a lot of times it really is the waiting. People in the military, there's an expression that they love to use, and it's called hurry up and wait. And that's kind of what you're doing when you're going through the publication process at some point. The worst part, I would say, is probably the editing and formatting. That is probably the lengthiest portion of it all.
And then that day finally came, it became real. You're holding the first copy of The Stellari in your hands. Andrew, what was that like for you?
It was definitely surreal. It's almost difficult to explain, but I'll do my best. It's like seeing something that you worked hard for, that you created. Not quite like when you have your first child. That's a whole different experience I have yet to have. But it's like seeing something that you created, you're about to unleash it upon the world, hoping that others will enjoy it. So there's a mixture of excitement, this sense of pride in what is an achievement, because not many people can say they're a published author. And just this admitted sense of anxiety. We're like, will people love it? Will they hate it? What are they going to say about it?
Well, if you're into marine science, if you're into sci-fi, or if you're just into really great books, then you'll be into The Stellari. It's written by Andrew Denn, published by Christian Faith Publishing, and available places like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Andrew, it's been fantastic talking with you tonight. Thanks again for coming on the show.
And thank you for having me.
Author Shanon Crouch has written a new spiritual memoir and guide. It's titled Wrap Your Heart Around God. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Shanon is here with me right now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Shanon, welcome. I appreciate you being here with me tonight.
Thank you.
Shanon, can you tell me all about Wrap Your Heart Around God and what readers are going to be finding here?
Well, it's going to be just a little story about me and how Lord showed me how to draw closer to Him.
And what kinds of readers did you have in mind for this?
Lord just told me to write the book for anybody that's inspired to draw closer to Him.
So how did this come about exactly? What was that spark that had you start on it?
5 years ago, I was sitting in the hospital. I just went through the second surgery. I was in ICU, just basically coming out of ICU into a regular room. Give you an idea, I was 9 days totally in ICU. Anyway, and the Lord spoke to me, and He said, I would turn TV on, the Lord spoke to me and said, if I'd spend as much time in His book as in His Word, you know what I'm saying, as I'd watch TV, where do you think I'd be? That was 7 years ago. Anyway, and that's what led to the writing the book.
Have you ever been published before this?
This is my first book, yes.
Yeah, so congratulations on getting that out there. So was this a long process for you once you got down to writing and publishing everything?
I never knew I was going to be doing it, and then I met my wife, and she says, well, why don't you put that all in a book? One thing led to another, and a year later it was all published.
So once you handed your manuscript off to the publisher with Christian Faith and you started that publishing process, what was the most challenging part of that for you?
Going back and forth, you know what I'm saying, where I'm not a very good speller and much less a writer. I mean, I was a field mechanic for over 40 years. I never knew the Lord was going to have me write a book. So that was the challenging part, me learning how all that worked.
And then once you got to hold your first copy of this, finally, after all that hard work, Shanon, what was that moment like for you?
It took me a while to read it. I couldn't believe it. Anybody that asked me 5 years ago that I'd be writing a book, I told them they were crazy, you know? I mean, seriously, I just never meant it. Like I said, I owe it all to my wife, you know what I'm saying, and God, you know what I'm saying, especially, you know, giving me the words to write. But still, it's hard for me to believe that I got a book, you know what I'm saying, that the Lord had me write. So.
And now you're officially a published author. And so when you think about that, Shanon, what's the most rewarding aspect of it for you?
Hopefully it changes the hearts of my readers. As far as me, I'm just a humble servant.
So looking down the road, do you think you might be writing more and publishing more?
I already started another book. It's called Nail It to the Cross.
So we have a lot of authors listening to us right now who are just starting out as well. So Shanon, is there anything maybe in the way of advice that you could offer?
Search God first before you do anything.
So when you were writing this, Shanon, did you find yourself writing maybe at the same time every day? Maybe you got up early and wrote, or maybe you stayed up late and wrote, or were you writing as you felt inspired and you could find that time?
5 years ago, it started just me writing just a little bit, you know what I'm saying, once a day. And now I write between 4 to 7 times a day, depending on what the Lord speaks to me. So some days, like I said, there's a lot of writing. Some days, like I said, 3 or 4 verses, you know what I'm saying, I write on. It's depending on the day.
So I imagine the Bible is one of the things that you read the most. Do you read other things as well?
No, I don't even read other, books, that other Christians wrote. Like I said, when the Lord called me to do this, He told me to use NLT version, and I couldn't have any other writing in it. In other words, other people saying on this word, that verse, you know what I'm saying? It all had to come from Him.
And looking at the cover, was that difficult for you to decide what the book was actually going to look like?
No. He already put it on my heart before I even started the book.
So as we wrap up our time here tonight, Shanon, if you had one major theme, one big idea that you want every reader to take away after they've read this book, what do you say that would be?
Draw them closer to God.
Well, this book will certainly be a blessing to a lot of readers. Again, the title is Wrap Your Heart Around God. It's written by Shanon Crouch and published by Christian Faith Publishing. So find it at places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Well, Shanon, thank you again for coming on the show and talking to me about the book. It was great talking.
Thank you. You have a blessed day.
Right now, I'm looking at the new book written by Sharon L. Elam. It's titled An ABC Reflections Journal, and it's an exploration of the joys, challenges, and spiritual growth in her life. And Sharon is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. We'll be talking all about this. Sharon, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much.
Sharon, can you tell me all about an ABC Reflections journal and what readers are going to get into here?
Well, I feel that this book was divinely inspired for me to write this as a legacy to leave to my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. I wanted to leave this legacy and basically share my life's journey and my experiences and the wisdom that I have acquired in my 84 years of life. In this book, I share my heartfelt thoughts about what I learned from my choices and the consequences of those choices. And I also wanted to share how important a deep faith in God and a spiritual foundation instilled in me a sense of gratitude and humility. And I wanted to share that God's hand was on me to guide my footsteps along the path He had chosen for me. And He's available to all of us, and He lives within our hearts, and He's on call.
What kinds of readers do you think would be really into this? Was this for a younger audience?
I thought a lot about that, and I'm thinking parents could benefit from this because they might well relate to that and be able to share with their children, or young adults. Grandparents. I just thought about grandparents today, too, reading that, and they might want to write their own legacy or leave their own legacy in some form.
Sharon, what does your writing background look like? Do you have a lot of experience doing this?
No, I don't. Actually, this is my third book that I wrote. I've written 2 children's books, and I'm in the process of my third children's book. But this one was the first kind of like adult book that I have written. And before this, I had no experience in writing books at all.
So once you sat down, got started on this one, was this a long journey for you, the writing and the publishing and everything?
It took me about 3 months, I think, to write this book. I wrote 2 or 3 times a week. And how it came about is I was thinking about how did I want to put this in writing. I got the inspiration, or was actually talking to one of my spiritual counselors, and I was sharing the fact that I didn't feel my grandchildren were tapping into my wisdom. And she says, you should put it in a book, write it down. And that's how I got the motivation to do this and got started on it. And being that I have a teacher background of 30 years, I decided to use the letters of the alphabet and a word for each letter and then expand on it with my life experiences. And I felt that each word was divinely inspired to tap into my life experiences and the wisdom that I received from those experiences.
I'm looking at it right now, and there are eagles on the cover. Can you tell me about that, Sharon?
The eagles represent myself and my daughter passed almost exactly 7 years ago.
I'm sorry.
And it was with her in mind that I wrote this because she was my one and only child, and I wanted the eagle to represent the mother eagle and the child.
So it must have been quite a moment for you when you opened up your mailbox, and there it was, the first copy of an ABC Reflections journal. It was real. You were holding it. Sharon, what was that like?
I saw the package, and I thought, oh, my gosh, here it is. So what I did was I unwrapped it, and I had this huge smile on my face, and I thought to myself, I did it. I did it. And it really, validated the whole fact that I had set out to do something I had never done before. And it just put a big smile on my face, and I went, yes, I did it. Success.
So while you were working with Christian Faith Publishing and doing that whole publishing process, what was the most challenging thing about that for you?
Waiting for each process to complete, the time that it took, because I'm a get-her-done kind of person. I get something in my mind, and I just wanted to do it and get it done and get it accomplished. And I, never having been through the publication process before, it helped me to gain learn a lot of patience.
Oh, what a wonderful book. Again, this is titled An ABC Reflections Journal. The subtitle is Reflections of the Life Experiences and Lessons of a Mother, Grandmother, and Great-Grandmother. This is written by Sharon L. Elam and published by Christian Faith Publishing. Really get it anywhere, like Amazon, Barnes & Noble, iTunes, also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Sharon, it's been great talking with you tonight. Thank you again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. God bless you.
The new book, written by Sheva Bouime. It's titled My Unique Learning Book in the USA. It's a fun-filled educational resource, and we're going to be talking all about it. Sheva is here with me now at the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. Sheva, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here with me tonight.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
The pleasure is all mine, Sheva. I'm curious to learn all about my unique learning book in the USA, so can you tell me all about it?
My unique learning book in the United States is a book designed for kids around 5. So this book gonna, help kids to learn the alphabet, the part of the body, the mouth, all the state of United States and capital, So it's an educational book for the kids.
And how did this come about? What gave you the idea for it?
I got the idea about my daughter because I got a daughter. She's almost 4. So I was just try to, make something to help her to learn fast. That's why I have this idea, and I just started writing this book.
So have you ever written and published prior to this, or is this whole thing kind of new for you?
This is the first one that I published. I have other books, but this is the first one that I just published.
Congratulations. So being that you were new to this and this is your first one, was this a long process for you overall?
It took me around 5 months because, sometimes you need to find the right word, put them together, illustration, everything. It took me around 5 months.
And something that's really important in a book like this is the illustrations. Sheva, was that a smooth process?
I don't know. I cannot say it was a smooth, but it was mixed. Sometimes it was smooth. Sometimes, you have to find the right illustration. Like for the kids, like I said, you need to find the right illustration for the kids. So it wasn't easy at all.
So once you handed that manuscript off to your publisher, Newman Springs, you started working with them. What was the most challenging part of that publishing end of things for you?
The most challenging thing, it was just sometimes you can come out with your idea for a book, and then when the publisher says, oh, there's something that we need to change here, sometimes you can say, oh, this is not what I was expecting. But at the end of the day, you say, okay, if the publisher said that this is what should be in the book, you're just going to agree. So this was the most challenging thing. Sometimes just to readjust what they said. By the end of the day, everybody was happy.
And then it finally happened. Your first copy came in, and you got to hold it for the first time, Sheva. What was that moment like for you?
I was happy, I was really happy. I was just jumping, screaming, like something you see, a book, a real book with everything, ESBN, everything. I did it.
And now that you're a published author, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of it all for you?
The most rewarding aspect is just you just feel like, okay, I did something. I did everything that I wanted to do. The book got everything that I wanted to be in the book. And when you hold a hard copy of your book, you were so proud. I was so proud of myself because I said, oh, that's what I did. I'm happy. This is my work and my work.
Do you see yourself doing it again? Do you think you'll be writing and publishing more down the road?
Yeah, I have a lot of projects. I have a lot of projects that I'm working on now. I have the other one maybe coming up soon. But even it's not on the same field. But I have another book coming up soon.
We have a lot of listeners right now, Sheva, who are authors who are just starting out. So is there any advice maybe that you have to offer them?
My advice is just believe in yourself. If you have an idea and you say, oh, I want to write a book, don't be scared, don't be afraid. Just take your time, just write your book.
So when you sit down to write, Sheva, do you find yourself writing maybe the same time every day, like maybe early in the morning or late at night? Or do you find yourself writing just kind of when you can find the time to write?
Sometimes I can be like in the morning. I can be sleeping and I just have an idea on my book. I'm just going to get up and just go, write. Sometimes even, noon, I can have an idea. I just go, there's no time for me to be like, oh, from this time, from maybe this time to this time I will write. No, it's just like every time when I see that I have something new that can improve my book, I'm just going to go and then start writing.
Well, what a great resource this is. Again, the book is titled My Unique Learning Book in the USA. It's written by Sheva Bouime and published by Newman Springs Publishing. So you can get it places like Amazon or Barnes & Noble, iTunes, and also traditional brick-and-mortar stores. Sheva, it's been really wonderful talking with you tonight. Thank you again for joining me.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable. where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. We hope to see you back here every Friday night at 8 p.m. or listen anytime via podcast at Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, to name just a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.